We're live. Hello and welcome. I'm Noah of the channel TravellingHalo, and I'm joined by my friends Alyx G and Wernissage, brought together by our shared love of Halo. But do not let that fool you, for we will try and likely fail to talk about anything but Halo, because this is not a Halo podcast. How are we doing today?
Right now, I'm wondering how long we can keep that gimmick up.
Yeah, I think
It's never
people
gonna
have
get
already caught on. What are we
Never
drinking?
gonna get old. I have some water because I am a boring human being.
And a coffee, as usual, because I'm also a boring human being.
I also have water. Big jug of it,
Nice.
as usual.
Noah, are you a coffee drinker too?
No. If I drink coffee, it functions as a laxative.
Okay.
And
Say
also,
no more.
also, I'm pretty sure I'm somewhere far along the ADHD spectrum, because if that is true of you, when you have coffee, it can make you do the opposite of what caffeine normally does for you. So I basically, I'll
really?
drink coffee and I'll crash instantly.
Oh, okay.
So there's a great, and on top of that, the third thing is that I get jittery. So I'm like wanting to take a nap and I'm like jittering and like my stomach is like upside down and it's just not
Oh,
good.
goodness.
But I love how coffee smells. Like
you
I
do?
love smelling
Okay.
coffee, and honestly I like drinking coffee. It's just like the
Okay.
adverse effects are not worth it.
Yeah. Well, I don't drink coffee, but I just don't like it. Like that's it. I've never liked it. So, and I think I could like it if I went all in for it. Like everyone I know in my age drinks coffee. But I just realized like it's not gonna cost me much, but it's gonna cost me some money, and I'm gonna get addicted to it. And I was like, I don't know, I'm fine without it. I drink a smoothie when I wanna, uh, yeah, when I wanna be a little bit more awake.
Yeah, I'm already there on the addiction side of things, so I would say best stay away.
Yeah, that's what I usually hear too.
Because literally
Uh,
on my work days, I brew a pot and go through it within like 5 or 6 hours of brewing it.
yeah,
Like a 20
Yeah,
ounce pot or
I
something.
used to drink coffee a lot. I liked decaf because that was my workaround for a long time. But then all the
Oh,
other
okay.
aspects still caught up to me, you know. So
Yeah.
damn.
Do you drink something to like heighten your senses?
Nothing at all. I drink cold water,
Yeah.
um,
Nice.
and I don't even put ice in it normally. But because that's the Chinese drink room temperature water, and I heard that one time, and I was like, well, that I must drink room temperature water, which is
Wait,
not.
what? Wait, that's a thing?
Yeah, well, they say it's a shock to your system if you have things that are especially cold. So you're supposed to have everything you eat
Oh.
be, I guess, either warm or room temperature. You
So
shouldn't be
ice
drinking
cream
anything
is well, I know it was bad for you, but
cold. It's bad for
yeah.
your chi too. Yeah, you want to have to be. You don't want to be subjecting yourself to extreme temperature fluctuation. Apparently, however, people also do the whole cold showers thing or like ice bath thing or whatever.
Yeah,
So
that's
I
supposed to
mean,
be good somehow,
it
I
is.
think.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
don't know honestly how the body interacts with temperature and how it is or is not supposed to benefit you, but
Yeah.
who knows?
Basically, we should just like feel discomfort, and that means we're doing something good, I think. No, just like
Exactly.
yeah, just gonna take a bath in like really cold water and yeah, drink room temperature water like okay, sure.
Well, I took a cold shower like a couple months ago for the first time ever, and I put a timer on for 5 minutes. Whoo! I thought I was gonna die. I mean, my body
Jesus.
told me that I was dying. I was
How cold
shivering.
are we talking?
I was like, I had to scream. It was weird. I have
Jesus.
not had to scream very much, but I was just like, oh, I'm gonna die. It was.
Oh
I
no.
mean, I basically took my shower and turned it to the coldest that it could go. And I don't know how cold that is, but it hurt. But here's the thing: when it was over, I got out, and everything felt warm after that. And I was in a good mood for the rest of the day because nothing could be worse than that. So I didn't get in arguments with anybody. I wasn't like, I was just chipper, and I had like a whole bunch of bandwidth to be a good person, and it was something else.
Yeah, I think that like this doesn't have to be like the topic of the video, but I think that tells you a lesson in like how life works, you know? Like you have to experience like bad stuff to appreciate the good stuff. You know, that's like the most valuable lesson I've ever learned. You know, you gotta take a cold shower to appreciate the warmth, basically.
The warmth of the atmosphere
of the world.
Because we have a whole horrible global warming problem.
Yes. So that's nice. It's hot outside. Hell yeah.
Hot outside all the time when you take a cold shower in the morning.
Yeah.
Is coffee, to bring it back to coffee, is coffee big outside of the U.S.? Because I can tell you here, it's huge. We got like Starbucks on this side of the coast, and of course they got Starbucks on Alex's side of the coast too. But like, there's a Starbucks every block here, literally. I was just in Seattle yesterday, and I was just like, wow, there really is Starbucks everywhere, at least here. I mean, in Sweden, is there Starbucks over there?
Yeah, we have Starbucks, but it's not. I can't say how common it is to find Starbucks. Like it's the same with like KFC and Pizza Hut. Like all of those, they didn't exist here for like 10 years ago, I think. But like the last couple of years, they've popped up in like, I know there's a few in Stockholm, like the big cities, Gothenburg and stuff. But I don't really have it here in my small town. But we have like the equivalent to it, Espresso House. I don't think you have that. So yeah. So I mean, I think we drink just as much coffee. I think I'm just kind of weird. I don't drink stuff. I drink water and Coke. That's all I drink.
Yeah, you also eat mayo and rice, so I'm not surprised.
I do. Well, it's kind of fun how that became a thing because I very rarely eat mayo and I very rarely eat rice. I just happened to eat it that day, and I thought it sounded kind of funny. And now that's kind of the image everyone here has of Sweden and our food. It's just mayo and
rice. It is. And it's your fault.
That's my fault. Shit. What have we done? Awful. No. So, but yeah, you Americanos, you are making some footprints here in this part of the world too, with the KFCs.
Well, we're good at
and all
that. We I guess we're an extension of. Yeah, right. Is it your first time? Exactly.
I'm just waiting for like Hot Pockets and all of that, all the stuff I've heard about, but I've never seen them in real life. You know.
Oh, absolutely. We're gonna counter colonize Europe. You know.
Yeah. Shit. Oh yeah.
Europe came and colonized the native folks here, and now we're gonna just turn right around. And,
I mean, we deserve it, so go for it.
Yeah, you could use some colonization over there.
Nice.
You've been there long enough.
This is a spicy podcast.
Yeah, we're gonna.
Hell yeah. What's the title gonna be?
Coffee and colonialism.
Yes, there it is.
I can just hear Zacarra writing that down right now. Our editor is now joining us in the background for those listening.
Yes.
As she takes notes in a live setting so that when she gets to the editing process, it doesn't have to be total blind.
Oh. And Neo is awake. Look who joined us.
And our Kiwi arrives.
Yeah, hi, sorry, it's me, the editor, Zacarra. I'm gonna be cutting in a lot this episode, so hi, nice to meet you. Neo, who has just arrived, as you're hearing at the moment in the recording, did not start recording his audio until a couple minutes later. So, thankfully I was recording desktop audio, so here's the next couple minutes of conversation through my desktop audio. It sounds kind of ass. I'm so sorry.
Basically, what I usually do is my alarm will go off, I hit the dismiss button, I count to 100, and then I get out. something went wrong and I fell asleep again.
Why don't you just get out?
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, why didn't you just get out? Oh, that's
I love that.
the Jordan. Wait, Jordan, what's
Halo
his last
chapter
name?
title. Why don't you just get out? That would have made that would have made the library a whole lot easier.
If you could just hit the get out
Anyways,
button.
how's
Well, welcome,
everybody
Neo.
doing?
Thanks for being here. We're doing good.
Sorry about
we
that.
No, you're good, man. We've just been
We like some
riffing on.
surprises. We
Yeah,
didn't have anything to talk about. We were talking about
Colonialism.
coffee and colonialism. Yeah.
I
So-
argue we did have something to talk about on that.
Well, we
on
did.
that
Wow.
front.
Okay.
Yeah, the work we were just discussing what the title's more likely going to be, and it turned into the brainstorm title was coffee and colonialism, and so now you're here, colonizing
It's
your
coffee and
spot in the
colonialism.
podcast.
There you go. Yeah. Well,
Right.
Nice.
we are a British colony, I guess. So, yep.
Correct.
Ouch. But
Yeah.
also, yep. I completely agree.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
Am I
We,
the only one here on the other side of the colonialism story? Because both my parents
Yes.
are immigrants.
you are.
oh wow, yeah.
Most certainly. We are all dirty descendants of colonial
Dirty white dudes.
Yeah.
Oh no.
100%, yes. Such is the plague of the Halo demographic, more than likely. Mhm. I'm pretty sure I have no statistics on that, but I'm sure Microsoft does. We were talking about coffee and bringing things over to, or things, American things that are in Sweden. And do you drink coffee, Neo?
Well, I skipped drinks and just joined right on because I was late. But usually, no, I just drink hot chocolate.
Ooh, nice. Now that's
Nice.
based.
Yeah. You spike it with alcohol?
Jesus.
Dude, I can barely stay awake as it is. But if it was there, then yes, I would absolutely.
Wait,
Life's too
that's a
short.
thing?
Spiking hot chocolate or coffee with alcohol? Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
But
Well,
why?
we sometimes have like Irish cream or like a liqueur or something. So
Oh, like,
sometimes I'll put that in
Mm.
place of milk. I wouldn't put straight, like actual alcohol on it.
It's like Bailey's and stuff, right?
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've never tried that before, actually. I'm really curious.
Like
I
I
thought- I
drink
mean-
hot chocolate for the taste, so it still has to taste good, and it still
Mhm.
has to be like accessible at all hours of the day
No,
because it is
I
6:30
drink
in the morning.
I drink hot chocolate for the because it's healthy.
Sounds like a pretty excuse for
That's
day
amazing.
drinking.
Wait, hot chocolate's healthy?
No, I'm just kidding. I
Okay.
was like, well, why else would you drink it?
Hey, I mean,
Yeah.
I think the original hot chocolate drink
FF.
in Quetzalcoatl or whatever it is, like the Mexican hot chocolate drink, that's supposed to be healthy.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if I pronounced Quetzalcoatl right. Anyway,
No, you didn't.
There's the
Thanks,
one
man.
word.
there it is. Yeah, there's that interjection that we predicted. Well, I mean, have you ever seen Charlie and the Chocolate Factory? I mean, come on. If you're up on your Chocolate Factory lore, you would know about ancient chocolate drinks and
It's your money.
Yeah, because that's kind of accurate, right? The allure.
yeah, historically accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
Charlie
yeah,
and the
that's
Chocolate
true.
Factory, 100%.
Yeah.
How could it
Guys,
not be?
MasterCard was an inside
true.
job.
That's right. Yes, that's what we learned about in music
Chocolate.
school. Yeah, Charlie and the Chocolate
nice,
Factory lore.
nice.
And chocolate. Yeah, in general. Trust me. I think I am experiencing credit card fraud.
Wait, what?
What?
Well, I mean, I made a couple of online orders on new websites a couple days ago.
I also like to live dangerously.
I think I can go and if the charge does show up, I can say, that wasn't me, and they'll take it off at any point. Until I see it reported in my bank app, I'm gonna leave it alone.
Yeah.
And there's normally a day or two delay on it appearing, so we're just kind of it's a waiting game right now.
As Halo fans, we're all really used to that.
So true.
Nice.
So true.
Hey, this is not a Halo podcast though, so
Sorry.
we can't bring that up. That's illegal.
Alex
We
broke
are
it.
contractually only allowed to bring Halo up like a maximum of 7 times per podcast. But
I
that's
think
between
that
all
is
people,
the written
right?
rule.
7
Yeah.
times?
Yeah.
So-
Was that a Halo reference?
If between all of us
Oh.
we hit 7, the show will explode and poof into it'll just disappear.
Yes. Someone keep count.
Oh, Zacarra
1.
will.
Nice.
No, I will absolutely not be keeping track of that. Oh my god, there are so many better things that I could be doing. Not to mention the fact that this episode has been an absolute nightmare to edit. Okay? Okay, goodbye.
It'd be quite funny if the episode just like on the 7th reference, it just it
Poof,
ends.
just done. Good job.
Deleted.
See, they think it would be really funny, but in reality, if the episode just stopped, you'd be like, what the fuck, Zacarra? And then I'd be like, I'm so sorry, that's what they asked, and then you'd be mad, and then, anyway. So, no, it's not, we're not gonna do that.
No, but if we, I wanted to talk to you guys about something. Well, maybe we shouldn't talk
It's a
about
perfect
it for too long.
platform for it.
Yeah, exactly. No, but it is Halo, but we're not going to talk about it all the time. But as you might have noticed, it's been quite the circus on Twitter, especially. I think.
Yeah, especially like the
regarding
past few days.
Yeah, exactly. Like because they revealed some information about the mid-season update, right? If I'm not mistaken, and people
I heard
are
about
quite dissatisfied with the live service aspect of Halo Infinite. And we've seen both the extreme sides of it, like some people defending them till they die, some people sending death threats, the classic Halo thing to do. So yeah, like
What is classic Halo? Death threats.
Yes.
I want to say,
Nostalgia.
imagine spending money on cosmetics only to find out that they're very slightly offset, but also,
Yeah.
you guys aren't going to get it fixed for 6 months because it's not important.
Yeah,
Not
oh God.
important, exactly.
I'm so glad I didn't
Entire-
buy those. 'Cause
Honestly, no,
that
that's
pissed me off.
You know what? Fucking, that's on you. If you didn't notice it beforehand, it's on you. You spent your own money on it. Get wrapped.
Oh yeah.
That's what
Yeah,
happens,
right.
man. That's what happens. The more people that spend that money, the less they're actually going to care or pay attention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I
but
loved how
also-
cavalier the community team was about that too. It's just like, because some things were not quite perfectly lined up. It's like,
Yeah, fuck
excuse
you,
me?
buddy.
Basically,
You just weren't paying.
they
Yeah, you
made the
just weren't
comment
trying.
about like eagle-eyed fans or something like that.
Yeah. It's like,
It's like,
eagle-eyed,
nah,
what the
man,
fuck?
I'm fucking blind in one eye and I can see that shit.
Yeah.
So like, come on,
It's kind of it's okay. It's not a Halo podcast. I'm gonna break something.
dude. Stop
something
counting.
else.
Stop counting. You're gonna ruin the show.
Sorry. No, but
counterweight,
regarding
counterweight.
that, I just gotta bring up Spider-Man: No Way Home. Although, can we bring up spoilers from that movie? Have you guys seen it?
Yeah,
I've seen it.
If you want to see it, it's been out for a while, right? So I mean, if someone's listening and hasn't seen it, just skip forward a few seconds. I don't know. But
Exactly.
the classic, the Sam Raimi suit from the Tobey Maguire films of Spider-Man. I don't know if you saw it, but you can tell it's the classic suit, but close up it looks very weird. Like it's it's the whole Rona situation and all that. I'm sure there's an explanation, but people are kind of getting pissed off at fans who just point out the fact that like that doesn't look right. Like that's obviously something is wrong, but people just like demonize other people just for pointing something out that's like this just doesn't look completely right, which is kind
So
of
people are bothered that someone else
is
is
bothered.
being picky.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I don't care that much, but like I would like to see the proper rendition of that suit, which we didn't get. But that kind of it's kind of the same thing with this whole thing that's not centered in Halo Infinite. Like it's not
Very
that
much.
big of a deal, but it's still something that's worth to bring up. Like so they can.
Yeah, it's a point of feedback.
Yeah.
You know, and it's on the part of the person pointing it out to not have their day ruined, but it's also on the part of the person hearing about that feedback to understand that's a thing, and now there are still other things that are good that I can feel comfortable about. And you know what I mean? Especially when it's not even, you didn't make the game, especially when it's like, you know, I feel like there's personal stake for people in something that they paid money for, or invested even time in, even if there's not money involved. You know, it's like, well, thing has been my favorite, you know, series or franchise for X amount of time. And as soon as somebody says something bad about it, you have to justify your time spent with that and love of it, you know, by defending it to, you know, because there can't be anything wrong with it. Because if there's something wrong with it, then you were into something that sucked, and that can't possibly be, you know. And there's just like a knee jerk that happens.
Don't they call that like constructive criticism or something? Like I've heard that.
I've heard
so
of
many
that.
things wrong with Halo.
I don't know.
There's
Yeah,
so
I'm
many
sure.
things wrong with Bungie's Halo. It doesn't mean I don't immediately just start like, oh no, I can't play with this anymore. It's got flaws.
Yeah, that's the thing that bugs me all the time. It's like what Halo game have you played that, like, please point to me the game that does it right. You know, people are always like, oh god, this Halo game is such a, you know,
I mean, we all know it's Halo Wars.
obvious.
Out of
That's
all
the
No, it's
correct
Spartan
take. That's the
Strike,
correct
Neo.
take.
Spartan Strike.
Yes. No,
Honestly-
wait, what's it called? Halo Recruit, obviously.
And we hit the number. Goodbye, everybody. Not a Halo podcast. Pseudofusion production. Blah blah blah.
Shit, already.
Exactly.
Well.
And the show's over.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Pack it up. Let's go home. Oh, we're all
No,
home.
we're good.
That's
We're good.
right.
We're good.
Yeah, I mean, no, but it's just like it bugs the hell out of me whenever somebody feels like that knee-jerk reaction to just react to somebody in a negative way and be like, how could you've trashed on my favorite thing. It's like, your thing is not even perfect to begin with, you know.
Yeah. I mean, it's all.
Well, I would also say it's kind of shallow if like you know you're liking something like what happens at the point when it's like, oh, you're liking things for other people's reasons and not because you fell in love with something, or you know, like you became a fan or fell in love for your own reasons. What is somebody else with different arguments, like how does that get in the way of that, right?
Oh yes,
Like,
I
If
often
you like
think,
Halo because you know, I don't know, it has the color blue in it, and then someone else is like, yeah, but it doesn't have the color red in it, and then you immediately stop liking it for that reason. That feels kind of disconnected. That's actually a really bad example because Infinite doesn't have like colors per se. But,
that's a good point.
you know, I rest my case.
I digress. Yeah. I mean, I think often about all of what I know about Halo Reach now, and like my understanding of the sandbox and like the art style and the game modes, but I think back to playing it between 2010 and 12 when I had no internet access, but I was like I wasn't sitting on the internet, but I was playing the game a lot on the 360. I didn't think about all that shit. Like, I think about what the things that I liked about that game were, and none of that stuff was on the list. And I think that has got to be true for every single individual who plays a video game. Everybody has their own personal experience with it, but the internet creates this like culture that allow, you know, that it means that everyone sources from like a singular knowledge base on what they think about something, you know, like they wind up adopting someone else's opinion. Like, and I think
Literal hive mind.
Yeah, I think the way that happens is with popular posts on Reddit, I suppose, you know, that everyone conglomerates around. But I think personally that YouTube contributed to that big time. You know, I think everyone found one loud voice, someone who is marketed as being, oh, just one of the community, you know, and they really are. But because their platform just happened to grow past a certain point, now everyone just funnels their viewpoint through that person. Whatever they say, yeah, that's me, because they're one of us, you know. Where in reality, that person's just one person, you know. And I don't want to go back and trash talk and name names right now. We've done that before, and Zacarra had to cut out like 30 minutes worth of talking because we were naming names. But yeah, I just think that just to refer to the platform in general, YouTube, which all four of us are involved in. Fair enough, but the fact of the matter is that people, they act like a hive mind. It's amazing. It's amazing how easy that is to do to people.
Yeah, because if you have like an unpopular opinion, as the kids say, you like either you have the courage to embrace it and go all in, and people usually just like shove it down people's throats, like look at me, I'm special, or you're just scared to say it because people are probably not going to agree with you, and you want people to agree with you because that's just how humans work. Like we like being liked. Often, so I think that's kind of what makes it into a hive mind too.
There's also the risk of when you're actually expressing your opinion that somebody might gaslight you into, saying something you actually didn't mean, putting words into your mouth.
Were you even there, bro?
Right.
What are you talking about? You liked Invasion and Halo Reach.
So are you saying that blah,
Have you
blah,
even
blah,
played
blah?
it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, regarding Halo Reach,
right.
like you could say like, oh, I love Halo Reach because of Invasion, but then someone comes along like, oh, but did you like Armor Lock? No, I didn't think so. So I win. I mean, I can say.
Do you even understand what playable elites do to the sandbox?
Yeah, exactly. Like stuff like that. Like, I mean, personally, I don't love Halo Reach's gameplay, but I'm not gonna I'm not gonna sit here and offend Noah because he happens to like it. Instead, we like it.
I never said I liked it necessarily.
Okay,
but I think that's
will.
internet clouding my judgment.
You love it, okay?
Yeah.
I'd also I'd also add too that I mean, would you want your series to just always play it safe? Because the thing is, if they're not testing, I mean, I would want a product I love, especially, if there's already previous products, then it's like, okay, well, if I want the Halo 1 experience, I go play Halo 1. I don't look for that in the other games. And, I mean, things have to evolve. Infinite's evolved in a few different directions I'm not necessarily a fan of.
Would you say that combat has to evolve?
I know this is your show, but get out.
Oh, shit. I'll leave.
I'm your host, Noah, and this
I was just... Well, he wasn't for half an hour one time, so...
Nice take.
But I suppose I was also 15 minutes late, so, touche. But the point was going to be, like...
Happens the best
it's not like they're going to hit the mark every single time, and, like, to a certain degree, I'm not going to say that you shouldn't expect they should, because I feel like, up with the consumers, I think it's still, it's still absolutely alright, and, like, possibly even a good thing to, like, still want things to steer in a certain direction, and be, obviously be quite vocal when, like, things get really bad to the point where, a lot of the community disagrees with the direction certain things are going. But, I wouldn't want teams to play things safe. I want to see them, like, poke around, try new things. Even if they're not successful, well, they are. Either way, that's a learning experience for the community and the developers, because we both figure out what we like and what we don't, and what works well and what doesn't. And it's not necessarily something you can tell or know for sure until it's actually, been tried out. Sometimes it may not have the best execution, but I'm still, glad to a degree that experimentation happens and, developers do try things. Because otherwise, we wouldn't necessarily know otherwise if that would actually happen. And I like to see things sort of evolve.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you make a great point. And although I'm going to play, like, what's it called, Devil's Advocate or something? I don't know.
Go for it.
No, but like, what's the, like, where does it go from being something new to, like, maybe they actually removed something. You know, like
Halo Infinite. Halo Infinite did exactly
yeah,
that.
exactly. I know that there's like a bunch of more huge aspects of it, but my main complaint about Halo Infinite was the lack of biomes. Like we only had like the pine trees. Like they like in a way they removed jungles and winter landscapes. You know, like but that's still something new. You like you know you experience the campaign in this world, like this is it, like that's kind of new in a way, but it's still you still removed something that was there all along. I don't know.
I mean, I do have
Like
confidence that they're gonna bring back all of those familiar environments in like later
yeah,
expansions or whatever.
probably.
This is probably just a way to like ease us back into like a hard reset point, I guess.
Yeah, it does feel like what they've done is like here's the first, and this campaign is actually longer than most Most Halo campaigns are like 8 to 10 hours. This particular one plays out like 10 to 12. But
Unless you speed run it and it's like 20 minutes.
It's 30 minutes, whatever. Yeah.
Oh man.
But I definitely, I'm almost positive that what their plan is to give us 10 to 12 hour campaign of what would have otherwise been a 2 hour Halo mission, and then what would have otherwise been a 2 hour Halo mission in like a desert or some other biome, 10 to 12 hour campaign, and then what would have otherwise been 2 hours of a mission in a third biome, a full campaign of that. Kind of feels like the kind of thing that might wind up happening. I'm sure in future expansions they'll do more than just one style of biome. Well, I shouldn't say I'm sure. That could be something they could do. I'm not sure of anything anymore.
What I'm hoping for the most right now is like Fallout 3 style expansions where every expansion has its own unique biome and then you can just fast travel between them. That would be really cool.
So that is what they do with that. Okay.
Hopefully.
Interesting. That would be, the ideal direction.
I find it very interesting how it is trying to be a non-linear thing, but it's also like surprisingly linear in the sense of how you can't really revisit or replay things until you do a complete new playthrough. So
I think that's a patch.
Very interested to see them redo it, because considering that you still see the mission in the map after you've completed it, that seems like either it originally was going to be replayable and they had to change things, or they always planned for it to be replayable and for whatever reason they didn't get around to it. Maybe co-op was involved with that somehow. I'm not really sure.
Well, I think that when you have to implement co-op, some of the same mechanics that are required for that to work are going to be related to the mission replay mechanics, and I think all of that will come someday, someday in an update. I believe almost definitely, because the UI elements are there and everything, that you'll be able to jump to a linear mission, and it'll reset the timeline. I'm not quite sure how they'll make it work with the open world, but because when you finish a mission in Halo Infinite, it also has a connector point that guides you into the next one. It wants you to go on to the next one. So like what happens? Like, do you select mission 3 and it makes you, by the end of it, it kind of encourages you to keep going to 4? When I was doing my playthrough, I didn't like stop and explore a lot. I just went straight to each mission. So I don't really know how much the game's trying to push you on to the next one while you're in the middle of it.
Like the only idea I can come up with is like I guess kind of how ODST did it. Like there's the open world, but then you have like, I think what they call the 400 dungeons. Like that's the mission select. Like those parts that are more linear. So you probably can't like select a mission that's like really that takes place like outside. That's probably not as easy. I don't know. What were you gonna say, Alex?
I was just gonna say that I'm usually the type, like if I'm playing a game with open world aspects, like Far Cry, for instance, or a Fallout game, even if there's like a main quest sort of thing to follow, I'm gonna get way too easily distracted by all the other side stuff. So my first playthrough of Infinite's campaign lasted maybe 20 hours spread across like 3 days or something.
See, I wanted that, but I was too scared to run into spoilers, so I just rushed it.
Oh, yeah.
But also, I'd like to replay it, but I want to wait until they fix the cutscene judder. there's like a juddery motion to the camera in the cutscenes, and I just can't take it. The next time I play it, I want that to not be a thing anymore. But they didn't mention anything about that in the mid-season update, so I guess I've only played it once. I mean, I've gone around in the open world quite a bit after finishing the main story, and I want to replay that story pretty badly, but I want to wait until they've fixed it to the point that they meant for it to be, you know. And it's a thing. I definitely like. I brought it up in the chat of Colby Payne. He's one of the developers, one of the level designers, and he was doing a Twitch stream. And I brought it up in his chat at one point, you know, about the cutscene judder, and he's like, "Yeah, that's a thing." And it's like, oh, good.
Yeah.
So this really is just a cross-platform, cross-system problem. Wonderful.
Here's a interesting take. I believably could see that the 8th gen version, or Halo Infinite even having an 8th gen version to some degree, has possibly... Actually, no. Based on the Xbox One CPU and the open world, I would argue probably objectively it has held things back to a degree. I would have... Obviously, for numbers reasons, they would always have bought an Xbox One version, at least for multiplayer. And I assume that it's probably going to be something like GTA Online, which did see a 7th gen version, and then after a certain point, they just stopped up. They still supported the original consoles versions, but they stopped updating them with new content.
Yeah, exactly.
After a certain point. I'm hoping that happens so that, you know, Infinite kind of actually really gets to soar in its best sort of flight, not being held back by the older consoles. What's everyone else's thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm hoping that at some point there's going to be a cutoff for campaign content, that it can bring in more open world aspects, or like have bigger worlds, period. Bring in more visual effects, make way for like ray tracing and stuff like that.
Yes.
But in the multiplayer, it's
I
going
hope
to be
it's soon.
supported, not like contributed to, but like supported the whole way through these 10 years.
Yeah, I hope it's soon. I hope they get to that quickly. I hope the next expansion is a generational cutoff point.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean it's so hard because I like since it's not the most powerful one, but I have the Series S, so I guess I'm part of the new generation. So I mean, yeah, I want that, but at the same time, like my brother has an Xbox One, which is awesome. Like we can play together. There's no way he's gonna like put money into a new console because he just bought it like 1 or 2 years ago. So that's kind of like, well, he's not gonna be able to play it if it comes out only on the new generation. So it's like it's so frustrating because I want it to be next gen only, so we can have like the best game possible. But at the same time, it's not realistic to expect everyone to be able to have a new console, which is, you know, there's no right answer obviously, but it's a hard balance. Like where do you go over to the new generation?
Yeah, well, because I actually brought this up because a couple of days ago I reinstalled Cyberpunk after the new update, which I bought at launch and I played I think I'm about halfway through it in total, because it's a massive game and, you know, there's like so much other stuff to do. Cyberpunk is a really interesting case where I actually really liked the game. I stopped playing because of how much stuff was there that I kind of stopped playing because of how much stuff kind of wasn't there, and how many technical issues I had. Even though what was there, I actually really enjoyed it, especially all the narrative stuff. I think that game does some really, really cool stuff with what it does. So I was kind of in the mindset of like, okay, well, I'm going to uninstall it for... Wow, it's been like... Didn't it come out in 2020? Shit, so it's been over a year since I've played it. And I was like, oh, I want to come back to it now, see what's changed and stuff. And it reminded me how technical issues and like missing content is basically the only reason for why I like kind of was a bit upset about the game, even though the stuff that was actually in the game I very much enjoyed. And that is probably another example where I feel like the 8th gen versions definitely 100% held things back, because if it was a PC only title, that probably none of that shit would have happened.
Oh no. I agree.
And if the series console, or if the 9th generation consoles came out a year earlier, that probably also may not have happened to as much of a degree. Especially if it was only available on 9th gen and PC.
I 100% agree. There's a lot of things. There's so many technical factors that that game needed to be able to excel on to capture its full vision, and it's quite clear that they had all that in mind, and also had maybe even built some of it. Like there's areas outside of the map that are 30% of the way there in terms of level design. Like the general terrain and layout is there. It's on the freaking map. When you pull the map, the tactical map up in the game, but also you can break out of the soft barrier and actually physically go over to it, and it has collision. And stuff like that, and other content pieces. And it's quite clear that they had the ambition to do it. Maybe they could have even pulled it off, but maybe the map size was too big for the older consoles. Maybe, in other regards, like the ray tracing, it's like, why would we implement this if half of our player base isn't even going to be able to take advantage of it? So yeah, I hope they gen up quickly, because I'm sure they have the bandwidth to make a lot of that happen. But when you're doing project development on stuff on something that's when you're doing project development, you weigh your options, against what your audience is going to be experiencing versus what you actually need to be working on. And the estimates for how many people were going to be on the older gen were probably quite high. It's probably quite a bit more of the population of that game on those machines than we realize.
Oh, 100%. I mean, well, you also look at multiplayer being free, right? So that pretty much right there shows that they're, at least with multiplayer, their number one goal is, just reach, just having an audience, like just a big number of players in probably any way possible. So that would absolutely have to include all the 8th gen stuff.
Yes, it would. Plus, ray tracing is something. For instance, ray tracing is on the newer consoles, but it's only available to certain PC users. So that like not all PC players can ray trace, at least not with decent performance. Most people would choose not to if they didn't have the hardware for it. Like I have a 3080, so it has dedicated ray tracing cores, which is great. But like, how many people have the 3080s, or the Radeon, the newer Radeon generation, and like that equipment is so hard to get a hold of. And then how many people have the newer consoles, because those are also hard to get. So like, yeah, if I were the project lead on that, I would definitely also tell them, let's just cut ray tracing for now, because who's going to see it? Yeah. When you're already struggling to get the thing out the door.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting, like, how consoles and games kind of, like, I guess, like, you see it the most clearly, like, a few years ago, like, with, I guess with, like, the Xbox One and that whole generation, and when, like, games were starting to become, like, 100 gigs plus, and so you could, like, fit, like, 3 games on the Xbox without external storage. It kind of like shows like how consoles didn't match the games at that time. We're kind of getting there now, but it's kind of interesting, like how what game developers want to do versus what the consoles can do. Like how that can be kind of jarring sometimes.
Yeah, the ambitions are outpacing the technology in a certain way.
Yeah, exactly.
But at the same time, though, I feel like our technology capabilities are exponentially growing, and there's also a way of looking at it, I suppose, where people haven't even comprehended what we could potentially do So it's like maybe the capabilities of the technology and the ambitions are growing in two different directions in certain cases. Sort of talking out of my ass a little bit. I don't have any specific examples to pull from here, but because storage is getting bigger and cheaper. Like digital storage is getting bigger and cheaper all the time. I can get an 8 terabyte hard drive for under $200.
Yeah.
And storage is getting faster too. But it's like Marty always said. When they went up to the 360 for Halo 3, he's like, "This is great. You've got this wonderful technology, but now some artists has to do 8 times the work."
Right.
Oh yeah.
You still need someone to paint every pixel. That's an ism sort of, but still, you still have to have an artist. Now they have to work even harder to develop.
It's kind of interesting, like how they like a few years ago you painted rocks. Now you just like photo scan, like whatever it's called.
Yeah. Take a picture.
Like,
of a
what's the
frickin'
point
rock
of even like being in like a concept artist? I guess not concept artist, but like an artist on games. Like I'm gonna paint some rocks. Oh, never mind. We're just gonna take a bunch of photos.
Well, but that's a different trade. It's like the Photoshop trade, the compositing and layering on pieces of other photographs, and I think it's I think it's just evolving.
What's it called?
Yeah,
like
and
photogrammetry
all
or something, right?
Like what?
Isn't it called like photogrammetry or something?
Yeah,
oh, yeah, that's
Yeah.
probably it. Yeah, sounds about right.
It's like
Wasn't
Go ahead.
Star Wars Battlefront one of the first, or the first DICE Battlefront from 2015, supposed to be one of the first games that really capitalized on that technology?
That would make sense because I always like remember looking at the rocks and like the snow, and I was just amazed. Like, holy shit, this looks awesome. It does look really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wait, while we're Alex, are you playing like the claw thing or whatever it's called?
I got used to it.
Dude, that's impressive. That's like I could not.
Nice.
Do this.
I'm like-
oh Jesus.
I've just got Halo Infinite running mindlessly on the side.
Oh,
Like, just
that's
something
nice.
to do with my
I like.
hands.
I respect that. I
I
respect.
It's
think my
like-
hands are too big to claw, frankly.
I tend to get
Oh,
a little
nice
easily distracted
Nice
when I'm in the
controller.
middle of doing something.
Yeah.
So like that's why I have my old Xbox set up here.
Oh, okay, yeah.
My Xbox sitting
I
right
remember,
over there, but
I think might have been the Monster Hunter games where that was one of the first games to actually embrace claw grip as like a official way of like playing.
really?
Wait,
It's,
wait, what game?
Yeah, Monster Hunter, like the
Okay.
yeah, back when it was on PSP, and that was like the lead platform for a lot of them.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really interesting, or it might have been DS actually, 3DS.
I got used to doing
Yeah.
claw grip because of Assassin's Creed actually. Because you're sprinting
Oh
everywhere.
yeah, that would make sense. Yeah.
Plus in Halo, if you do the claw grip, you can jump and look around at the same time by doing this.
Well, you see,
Yeah.
I've got paddles, so I've circumvented that problem in a different
I spent all my savings on this, so I can have back buttons.
I got this for Christmas.
Ooh,
Nice.
Nice.
that was sick.
That's it.
Wait, what's the display thing up top?
It's a bunch of audio settings for if you want to plug in a headset.
Oh, okay. I thought it was like
Cool.
I had a controller for the 360 like a couple of years ago, which had like a built-in fan. So I could have like a fan in
Oh,
the
how much time
like
do you have to
awesome.
spend to need a built-in fan?
yeah, like that's kind of complicated. Like I'm impressed.
That's
It worked
intense.
okay, but it made some noise.
The question for the engineers is, why did you design a controller that needed to be cooled
Yeah.
that severely?
No, it is like for my hands, so I guess they wouldn't be too hot.
God!
I mean,
it's like
yeah, so it's
de-sweating your hands.
Yeah, exactly. So it was kind of nice, but it wasn't really worth it because it just
I
sounds.
was gonna say, like, the
awful.
controller doesn't do any processing power. Why does it need to be?
Yeah,
cooled?
no.
Or you could just take breaks.
I mean,
Yeah,
I
or
don't
you
take
could be
breaks.
normal.
I can game all day, all night.
Oh, shop update.
Got my bag of Doritos and my Mountain Dew on hand.
Yeah.
In the Halo
Exactly.
Infinite store, we have the color
Oh.
red and two shoulder pieces.
Aw.
Good.
$5.
Wow.
Well, it's better than
Good.
1 shoulder pieces, I guess.
Oh,
I mean, a new armor set is great, actually.
what an improvement! Is it really? I haven't looked at all.
I
haven't
gotta-
booted Halo Infinite up in a while.
We do
I
finally
actually-
have a new pair of
It'd be a
gloves for the Mark 7.
man, it'd be a shame if you could unlock shoulders by like getting some kind of achievement in game. Am I right?
Next season,
That's a
you'll be able to
fringe
do it by
idea,
getting
Neo. We're gonna have to
credits.
cut you off the podcast for that.
Yeah, that's dangerous.
Neil Young's gonna leave Spotify over your fringe opinions.
I actually bought something from the store like the other week. I'm feeling well. I actually bought two different things. I had some Microsoft points, so I had some in-game currency. So I bought the Hell Jumper. No, not the Hell Jumper. What's it called? Maybe it's called the Hell Jumper. The ODST look.
Is it like fire or
Firefall.
something?
Firefall.
Yeah, that helmet looks cool.
Yeah, so I
There's an
bought
ODST
that,
helmet?
and then I bought like the helmet attachment for it, and some. I think it had some shoulder pieces too.
Is there an ODST helmet I don't know about?
It came
yeah,
out a while ago.
It's very ODST looking. It's for the Mark 7 core.
It's kind of
Son of a
ODST-ish, more angular. Oh, you missed it. Oh no.
I remember seeing it and I was like, finally, a good fucking helmet for the
But
core.
wasn't it like
Yeah.
$7 or something?
How much was it?
Yeah, it's quite expensive.
It was like $7
20?
or something.
I still wouldn't
7?
drop money
For a
on the
helmet?
current
Yeah,
price
yeah, I
sets.
think it was. Yeah, but I had some.
Yeah.
Because also,
points.
their stuff doesn't scale for different economies, right? It's like, you buy it, I don't know, something's like... How much was the Battle Pass for the States?
$10.
Okay, so... It's $10 there, it's like 17, but I think it was 17 in New Zealand currency when I bought it. So the stuff doesn't really scale, it's just kind of like translated directly to whatever other currency you are. Which...
I wonder how they determine that because what's the term for it? Conversion between currencies. There's a term.
The
for
exchange
that.
rate?
Exchange rate. Yes, the exchange rate is constantly evolving. So I mean, does that $10 mark in U.S. dollars fluctuate for other currencies as the year goes on?
Yeah, that's how
Or
it
is it
works.
always $17
No, I think they
New
just
Zealand?
set it.
What?
Pretty sure they just set it like when at the point the game launches, which
Interesting.
means it'll probably always be $17.
No matter what the exchange rate does.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oof.
which is, I think, I mean, it's probably partly also because like visually it's a bigger number, so it just does really look substantially like a lot more, especially for individual things on the store, which, like, basically anything in New Zealand is like $10 or more, which is kind of quite a bit of an ask,
Yeah.
in my opinion. So I'm certainly curious to see if they kind of address that in the future, or whatever they do with that, because it's not just like me that I'm talking about. There's other regions that have it way worse, like places like Brazil and shit. Their economy is like they got like a whole other thing going on, and things just being US currency or sort of balanced for like the US economy, I feel like would probably actually look extremely unattractive in a lot of
I'm
other
sure.
territories.
Yes. Yeah. Most definitely. Hey, Neo, speaking of New Zealand dollars, we have a new mascot.
Oh yeah.
I found a Kiwi dollar
Oh, that's like
in this thing. And it
that is a $2 coin.
made in New Zealand.
Huh.
Yeah? Yeah, it's got a
I'm pretty
Kiwi
sure
on
that
it.
is literally a $2 coin.
Actually, it says $1 on it.
Oh yeah, it does. Nice.
Yeah.
Yep, that's actually the same as our active. I think that's the same as the coins that are actively minted here. Nice.
Yeah, this is our mascot now. This
I
little
remember when I was a
half-dome.
kid and we had 5-cent coins. Good times.
Yeah, we used to have like really like tiny amounts of money, I guess. Now I don't even know what it looks like because everything's just digital, so we don't even use cash. It's sad.
Yeah, cash doesn't really get the cash flow is pretty low here. But yeah, no.
It's crazy if you go to somewhere like Japan and it's still primarily like a paper
It is.
country. Quite literally.
Wow.
There are so many places in Japan. They don't electronic currency. I mean, I guess it's recognized, but I don't know, something about that country. I guess just paper money is still very prevalent, or physical money. So there's a lot of especially villages and stuff. If you don't have like physical cash on hand, you're actually going to be shit out of luck because there are so many areas that deal exclusively with actual paper money.
Wow.
Which I found just fascinating, considering Japan is sort of, in some degrees, one of the most technologically advanced societies.
So what's the multiplayer
Yet-
video game scene like in Japan then?
Oh man, so a lot of like Japanese fighting games have really shit netcode because the internet over there is so good that in Japan it doesn't even like matter, and that's the primary audience they're developed for.
So that's why everybody else gets a short end of the stick.
Pretty much, because they don't even need to like really care about that over there. A lot of they have like arcade machines that basically are just PCs running versions of like Street Fighter V or Tekken or whatever. Like over in Japan, a lot of arcade games just have online multiplayer, and you're just playing against other people on other arcade machines, which is crazy. That's like not a thing anywhere else that I really know about.
Yeah.
Because the infrastructure there is just so good. They can do that, and the experience it doesn't detract from the experience playing against people that aren't physically at the same cabinet because their internet is just so good.
That's
it doesn't
insane.
even matter. And also, Japan is so small, I think, that they're able to do that kind of thing.
Yeah, it does come down to a limitation of actual physical proximity, internet speed.
Yeah,
Sometimes.
physical distance makes a difference there as well.
Yeah.
That's something that I feel like the States probably couldn't. Like, you couldn't do that stateswide. You could maybe do it statewide, maybe, if you were lucky.
Yeah,
But,
you probably could if you had
It obviously
better
depends on the
infrastructure.
thing as well.
Yeah, Alex and
But-
I are going to be late. You know, we're gonna have a certain amount of latency between us, no matter what. You know, given that we are, how wide is the U.S. miles wise?
Like
It's
3,000 miles
far.
or something, mainland?
Yeah. Your internet latency is going to just be a certain. There's going to be a certain amount of
Definitely.
ping, no
yeah.
matter what. But yeah, per state, yeah. If you had banging infrastructure, you could definitely get some crazy inter-country speeds going.
Oh, wait, it's 5,000 kilometers?
The
Jesus.
width
Okay.
of
Pretty
the
big.
continental
Well, we don't
US.
measure in kilometers.
Yeah, because
so
I didn't know,
Yeah,
like...
you guys use freedom units.
Wow,
we
how dare
use
you.
freedom units. Don't come at me with this European bullshit. I don't want to hear it.
Implemented.
The U.S. has never been 5,000 anything kilometers.
No.
It is not. It is 0 kilometers as far as you're concerned, my friend.
It
I'm
is
kidding.
50,000 feet or something. I don't know what feet is.
Well, I have I have a kilometer reading on my speedometer on my car, so
Oh, you
I
do?
can see if I'm going 60, I can see that I'm going 100 kilometers an hour.
Oh, okay.
That sounds
yeah, I
insane,
haven't-
but it's just normal.
I haven't
Yeah.
even thought of that. Like, you guys
Well-
don't have, like, our signs. Like, 30 kilometers per hour. It's like the normal speed. Like,
Well, we go 30.
like
we go
city speed for
35
us,
in the
yeah,
streets. But
Yeah.
that's 50 kilometers an hour.
oh, okay, yeah.
Yep.
That makes sense.
So,
By the
You
way,
know,
is
you
it,
guys would have-
are we live on the podcast? Or
I think it's all
I
fair
assume
game. Zacarra finds a way to cut in things, and
Somehow,
you know,
yeah.
She always, yeah.
Yeah,
They'll figure
somehow
it
she
out.
makes it work.
Yeah.
Our
Well,
inane
she's the-
ramblings.
The
Wizard.
engine that drives this whole thing. I think,
Exactly.
you know, she's.
Yeah.
GG, Zacarra. Couldn't do it without you.
That's right.
Oh, maybe she's gone.
Oh, thanks,
No,
guys,
she's
for
there.
making me cry.
Hello.
You're
It
most
reminds me of
welcome.
my job,
Yeah.
actually.
Your job? What? What'd you say?
I was just saying it kind of reminds me of my job, actually. I'm a
What's your
producer.
job?
So, like, I work with the composer. Like, he sends me all the audio files and stuff, but it's all just, like, center panned with no mixing whatsoever. Because, like,
Oh, yeah.
he's focusing
Oh,
strictly
Okay.
on songwriting. So, like, I get the files, and then I listen to it, make any suggestions, and then mix it down.
That's
sick.
awesome.
I didn't know you did that.
It's a lot of fun, but it can also be really, really fucking difficult once there's, like, a lot going on. Like, for a boss battle theme or something.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Especially because you have to
Wow.
make sure it all loops properly as well.
Good call.
And then I also have to check in with the programmers if they want to do like any post effects on the audio.
Mm-hmm.
Like how, say, like how Halo 3 does it, where in engine they also process the audio in a specific way.
Good old Waves Audio.
Exactly.
So you know what VST plugins are, right?
Yeah.
Me? Yes.
Yeah, so since Halo 3, well actually no, that's not since Halo 3. Halo 3 and Reach specifically, and I actually don't know about 4, but 3 and Reach basically just have a bunch of VSTs running in the background. of Waves plugins, and then
wow,
yeah, everything is mixed in real time through those plugins. You've got a dedicated reverb plugin, you've got a dedicated compressor, dedicated limiter, dedicated EQ. That's like, stuff like when you hear the radio filter of certain dialogue in like Halo 3
yeah,
onwards,
you can actually pull
that's
that
actually
out
just
unfiltered.
yeah. So that's actually just the actual dialogue is clean. That's just EQ'd in real time. There's also some
That's
like
sick.
marine dialogue. No, actually, Reach does it where it only gets radioed if you're far enough away.
Oh yeah.
Otherwise, you just hear the actual person physically say it.
Yeah,
And stuff like
that's
that.
how they do that. Oh wow, that's interesting.
Yeah. So that's great, because that means you can have all of the source audio just be clean and unprocessed, mostly to a degree, and then you can just dynamically, slap effects on things only as you need to, instead of having to make multiple files to account for different situations. So
That's
it's really
so cool.
efficient, I guess.
See, that to round it back to Marty's comment that I brought up before about like the transition up in generations, especially with regard to game development. He was always like, with the music's always going to just be what it is. Recording an oboe is, if anything, it gets easier and more efficient with time and technology. Whereas as the technology gens up for the artists or for the people building the game, the assets get more and more complex with time. And so, and that's a great example of it, where the with better technology comes the opportunity to have less and less space taken up on the disc for the audio, and more control given in post or dynamically, to different effects and things you can do with it. It's funny how those things are inversely related.
I can't imagine how difficult it was for Halo Infinite's composers, though, since they're coming off the backbone of Halo 5, but also coming into an environment where people are demanding the return of like classic melodies and stuff.
Yeah, that would be scary. Especially, even on a direction level, Joel Yarger, who was the music director for the three of them, like, how do you coordinate them? How do you get three guys who have way different styles? We kind of talked about this before a little bit, but like, it's very clear that the three of them were sort of each assigned a different type of music or a different kind of role. So Gareth took over on things that were new to the franchise, which was like their interpretation of Banished sound, but also like all the things having to do with the Endless. Yeah. And Joel was given a couple of the big legacy tracks to deal with, but he also has this sort of masterful synth understanding of synths. And Curtis figured out kind of like a musical language and set of rules to be able to create all the gluey string and choir stuff that just, it's like, that's Halo, man, but it's not, he can do whatever he wants with it, but it still sounds like it. That and a few legacy tracks also. And, so it's like it's very obvious the delineations that were made on a direction level for each of the three composers. And props to them, because the three of them clearly got to do what they do best.
Yeah, like I was kind of worried when it was revealed that there were like three different composers. I was like, okay, I don't like too many cooks, with something creative. It can kind of become, don't really have a personality. But Halo Infinite is like one of like at least top 3 best soundtracks, like Halo soundtracks. So I think it worked out great somehow. I don't know how, but everything just works and it all fits together. So
I think it does sound really good. I think there are just a couple of really strange choices, but I think that's bound to happen, especially when you do have so many people involved. I think the fact that it came out as good as it did is remarkable.
Yeah. What do you think is strange? My
least favorite thing that happens in that game is the use of the Warthog Run theme. I love that. Yeah, I love the execution of that actual track, but the implementation of it is in context of what the actual mission winds up being. The road. It's just kind of ham-fisted. It's weird. It's like, this is clearly not what it was meant to be.
Well, Yeah,
I
go
always
ahead.
found that scorpion run or scorpion crawl,
Yeah.
I guess, to be really awkward.
The tank crawl.
Like it feels like it's trying to evoke what's that level? Metropolis from Halo 2? I think yeah. But it just doesn't pull it off the same way.
Like musically or like gameplay wise?
Both, I think.
Yeah.
Because Metropolis in Halo 2 was it was sort of a toned down version.
Oh, right, where you drive the
Warthog
tank
run.
over the bridge. Yeah, I was thinking
Yeah.
of the one after that.
Like you've got
Just
Steve
outskirts.
Vai's guitar on there and stuff, but like it's not like super duper extreme or whatever. Since you're in a tank going over a bridge, like
Yeah.
it's not that big of a deal. I was expecting there to be like a proper Warthog run to escape the silent auditorium or something, but no, it's just a portal.
Yeah. And correct me
that was a little bit disappointing.
correct me if I'm wrong, but like when you first get to the Halo ring, and you like finish off the banished, and you get picked up by Brohammer.
And Outpost Tremonius.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And when they like fly away and the weapon asks about Cortana and all that, like doesn't it play the Warthog round there too, and like kind of awkwardly just like cuts it off? I think it's the
plays it
Warthog
for
round.
a little bit.
Yeah, like that was kind of the thing I noticed. Like the only thing I noticed that I didn't like about it. Like, why did you put that there? That's like the most dramatic Halo music there is, and you just put it when they just look at the Halo ring, and then they just like cut
that's
it
a little
off.
strange.
Yeah, like
I'm thinking about
I don't remember
Comet
that.
Evolved. I'm thinking about Comet Evolved, where the first time you properly hear the Warthog run is in what is it? The Silent Cartographer at the very beginning.
Yes.
It's like it's this massive beach landing
Oh,
combat
yeah.
scenario.
Yeah.
That's
the
appropriate.
D-Day scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool.
I will drop this in podcast discussion, because I was actually listening through to make sure that what I was saying was correct. But one of the things that I feel like is missing with Infinite is I noticed that it's funny because it's typically been it's actually always been something that I've been kind of bummed out about, because it's partly the reason for Odyssey's existence. Although thinking about it, I think Halo 4 onwards also suffer from this. There's a lot of smaller kind of cues that happen in the Bungie games that aren't necessarily... I guess the game is still being scored, but it's not really a continuous music track. And that is something with Infinite where it is either complete silence, which it actually usually isn't, or it is like a proper full musical track scoring.
Yeah.
Like just a musical loop.
Almost like they were
running in the
thinking.
background.
Almost like they were thinking on the level of like this is a film, or more so even still like they were thinking, how is this going to translate to a soundtrack album? Which you do not want to be thinking how it's going to translate to a soundtrack album mid-project. That's like,
we got to sell the
I
soundtrack.
mean,
But game soundtracks
when you
are
listen to the soundtrack and you're like, this is great, but then also one of my things is something that I've always thought was special and cool about the Bungie Halo games is how much music isn't on the soundtrack, because there's so much stuff that it doesn't really make... It's not really intended for a listening experience where you're actually paying attention to it. It's there to help set the background for whatever your experience is, as kind of like a secondary thing. But then also when it's not there, you can like there's a noticeable difference when it's missing.
those little glue tracks from the classic games.
yeah, they're fantastic.
It's not even necessarily the glue. If you jump to podcast discussion, there's like spooky one shots and these kind of like fun like other.
They almost
like,
act like
just
sound design.
Sprinkles.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, these are cues. These play... Well, actually, these play in a few locations, but I distinctly remember these can play at random in Pillar of Autumn when you're in the maintenance access ways, and you walk up to one of the locked doors where you can see Covenant on the other side.
Oh,
and
no
those
kidding.
That will trigger one of those at random.
That's cool.
Only not necessarily. There's a chance that one of them will play if you go up to one of those areas where there's like active Covenant.
God, that's
It's
cool.
all very... It's done with like trigger zones and stuff, so it only happens in certain conditions.
Wow.
But like that kind of stuff is just missing from the 343 games. I actually don't even think it's in Reach, or it might not even be 3. I think it's only Halo 1 and 2 that have these. But
wow,
that's something that I always thought was really cool, and I always attributed that with Halo's sound, where it's more kind of reactive, but it's not necessarily just like a continuing single track or anything.
Mm-hmm.
There's like kind of extra sprinkles that can happen, and that's not really the composer's fault, because that's probably not what they were trying to do anyway.
Well, it's not something most
But
games do. So when you bring in somebody from the rest of the industry, who's experienced, it's just not going to be in their repertoire of things that they might think to do. It is entirely down to a music direction level.
But yeah, that's one of my favorite things about 1, and because I actually,
That's an amazing
off the top of my head, I'm actually not sure if any other games did it, and maybe creatively they decided to just drop it after the first game. But I always liked how the first game not only has just, reactive music, but it also just has like reactive stingers and cues, and then just these like cool small like events pretty much that can also happen under certain conditions.
Yeah,
I thought that was
this
really
kind of
cool.
sets the mood, which I like.
Well, it's almost like it's almost cinematic as well, right? I mean, movies don't necessarily just, oh yeah, you just have like a musical score. Sometimes there's like other stuff as well.
Yeah.
It's like, I would argue the next level from this would be where it's like a diegetic score.
Yeah.
Could feel like there's almost some situations where I feel like some sound effects almost become part of that score, like in Cairo Station, whenever the other stations explode, you hear this like doof, doof, doof before the explosion, and I always like feel like that's part of the soundtrack, even though that's not, just because it kind of like fits the soundscape of sort of scoring the moment as it happens. I would almost consider that like one of these cues that I'm talking about.
Well, I think the entire audio experience is part of, the entire audio experience as a whole, and like Hans Zimmer, for instance, with his films, like the soundtrack albums will often include dialogue from the film or sound effects from the film, because his feeling is that his music is integrated inseparably with those elements. And I think that Halo, that's very true of like Combat Evolved and stuff. You could have very well gone that direction when crafting a soundtrack album for Halo. Of course, that's not the direction.
I just checked through Halo 2's files.
Mm-hmm.
I found it. It's apparently it has a hop hit. That's cool.
Oh, okay. Just casually look through the files.
You hear the Dubbo line, and he's like, "This is bad, real bad," and like one of the other stations explodes, and you hear that right as it happens.
Wow, that's so intense.
And it's cool because you hear that, and it like every time I hear that, that prompts me to look at the window as I see it explode. Like every time it plays.
That's
like
cool.
That's one of the cool things where it can like turn your attention to something else in the world because it's related to the event.
Yeah, like
because that harp thing, it plays both times the station explodes. So the second time you know what it is.
Oh,
so then you look at the window to see the explosion.
Subconsciously, because I don't consciously remember this thing.
Yeah,
like,
that's
absolutely.
So cool.
There's a lot of cool subtle things like that that I really enjoy.
Yeah, I think it's interesting like how our brains work. Like we make those connections even though we don't notice it. Like, oh, I hear this sound, now this is gonna happen. I think it's great to like take advantage of that aspect of our brains.
Finding patterns.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what we do best.
that it is. Wow, that's a good point. I had never consciously thought about all those things.
So these are all from Halo 2, so I guess Halo 2 did do it as well. There's also this flashback stinger, but I don't actually know when that one plays.
Oh,
it just
wait.
kind of appears throughout Halo 1 to 3.
Isn't that like...
Oh, yeah.
Am I wrong? But isn't that when you jump down the pipes in the... what is the sacred icon in Halo 2?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think those like swells and stuff are all flood. I mean, well, no, those are atonal, so they're like definitely flood related.
Yeah.
But...
They referenced
stuff like that doesn't happen in the newer games.
Speaking of that, music. They referenced that in Infinite, but musically, I don't remember how they handle it. I think there is just a piece of music playing.
Well, that's the thing. It's like there's there's no kind of like cases of like an isolated sort of musical like one-off that plays by a certain event. It's always just a background track, I think, is maybe the difference.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But I guess that's also creatively, it's also two very different ways of, approaching the same situation. So maybe it wouldn't make sense if they did those cues or whatever, and it wouldn't actually really work in the context of Halo Infinite. That's the thing.
Well,
as
yeah,
like,
that's also something to consider. That's important. Is like, that's the part of the conversation of how much do new Halo games need to pay homage to older Halo games, and how much of what older Halo games did should be taken seriously as DNA, sort of, but the very concept of them, can still be expanded upon or utilized without copying the previous game. I think there's a lot more of the second thing that I said, a lot more of the latter, than the people making them realize or want to take the time to dissect. In my opinion, I could be wrong. You'd have to actually try it to see if it were true. But I think a lot of those types of things, like you've just brought up, exist as a sort of a DNA element of the older Halo games. But it's hard to communicate that to a new artist or a different artist in an efficient way. And so it's easier to just tell them, well, there was music that sounded like this, and then they'll just artistically interpret that. But there's lots of little minutia that would probably be, as a director, I would fear the process of trying to communicate all of it, because it's just like, how do you do that efficiently and without bogging the person down artistically or mentally and creatively?
Well, it's interesting because like I feel like this is kind of my point with what just happened, where like a lot of the stuff you guys don't even remember it. It's because there's such subtle details that it's possible that it just was completely overlooked, and whoever was in charge of sort of keeping the composers updated or whatever, they weren't even aware that the stuff was in the game. Especially now that I'm quite confident Halo 3 doesn't, because now that I'm thinking about it, I actually think Halo 3 doesn't do this. So it's just 1 and 2.
So this is a problem. So this is, for instance, something that's been forgotten for much longer, even than 343 just taking
lost
over.
The time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's also where it's like it depends on the game too, right? Like Halo Reach especially, I feel like I can't think of any places in Halo Reach where this kind of thing would make sense. Because Halo Reach's music is largely also scored from start to finish. It's either nothing's playing or a background track is playing.
Yeah. I mean, you do problem solve. When you say, here's a vision, you problem solve to achieve that vision as efficiently as possible, or as effectively as possible, I should say. And so there is the argument to be made that, is it important to uphold a technique, or is it more important to try to compare the effect, after the fact, because genre-wise, Halo, starting at Halo 3, does start taking other turns away from what it had been before. Halo 1 and 2 are even quite different from each other, but they're more closely related than the other entries in the franchise. So, it's like at that point, is it important that we do the same things to achieve something different, or should we be developing new techniques like Halo 3 sort of does, to achieve something, some new concept?
Well, I was even going to say, I mean, there's possibly other reasons too. I mean, my guess is probably that, I mean, most of those stingers, pretty much all of those stingers, are designed to be kind of like scary, or they're supposed to kind of they're supposed to like be sort of unnerving events that happen. And I feel like Halo 1 and 2 are really the only games that like had situations or encounters that were like, the intention behind whatever this was is it's supposed to be like a scary encounter, I think, because it's like unknown or that kind of thing. Especially, I think the Flood probably goes hand in hand with a lot of that. or in the case of Halo 1, a lot of the spookiest stuff also just plays in Forerunner environments, but that's probably because in Halo 1 there are a lot more like actual dungeons, specifically the Silent Cartographer, when you like go into the map room, and it's all like it's kind of like a spooky ancient maze. So that's also the case there of, well, those sort of environments never really reappeared in the series either.
Yeah, I mean, certainly.
Cartographer was kind of reimagined in Halo 3 because a lot of the interiors of the final sort of part of the arc are basically just Cartographer again, sorta. But then it's not a spooky mystery. For one thing, it's all well lit in Halo 3, whereas in Halo 1, a lot of the Cartographer's interior was, made from darkness as well. So that kind of thing also.
Yeah, so even though it's literally this is the same level design, it's tonally, artistically, there's a different
it's probably
vision.
Also they can't do it dark again because it wouldn't have the same effect for players that have already been through that area in the first game.
Yeah.
I guess there's so many things of it like all coming together and working a very specific way. Sorry, what were you gonna say, Alex?
Halo Infinite does have that spooky sort of sound, but they put it into a song called The Endless, and that's how they achieve their spooky accents whenever they're necessary.
That is sort of a spooky element in Halo Infinite, most certainly.
Like instead of just having like level-specific sounds here and there, it's like an entire song that they draw from.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting, like, it's not really as subtle, but, that one part in Halo Infinite's campaign where you hear Despondent Pyre?
Despondent Pyre?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like when you hear her being tortured, you can, like, hear her, the screams, reverb everywhere, That's kind of spooky in a way. It's not a sound effect per se, but it sets the mood in that way. It's more straight to the point, I guess. Like,
that is
here's
true.
someone being tortured.
Oh yeah.
It does some of that. Certainly.
It does it in its own way, I guess.
Yeah, Halo Infinite definitely did a good job to get back to some of those spooky things, like to evoke something spooky or something that the player isn't already familiar with, which is great. I was gonna say about the Halo 3 callbacks level design wise, it's almost like you're walking through a museum of the thing versus what it would have actually felt like to have been there when the thing was created. These are two emotionally completely different experiences. So like Combat Evolved being the actual experience of being there, and Halo 3 being the, it's like walking through a museum of it. It's like sort of it's evoking something completely different. It's evoking the memory of something that happened rather than trying to replicate the actual thing happening. Hence why the lighting is brighter, or why the music cues interact with the level design differently, or lack thereof. Because that element of mystery is not there, whereas with Halo Infinite you introduce a new element that the player does not already know about, and then you can bring up the spooky again.
I know. Oh, I know.
This has been good. I think we should wrap up.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I was gonna do the outro.
I think we got down to something interesting, and it's clean, and we're good.
Yeah. 2 hours. Man.
Might just have to cut out something in the middle there, but
there's a few things that are not worth keeping. I think I'm going to do the outro read. The outro read is slightly reinvigorated. All right. Well, thank you all for joining me today. Not a Halo Podcast is a creation of Pseudofusion Productions, free of any funding. If you'd like to support us, please share the podcast with someone you love, and please support the crew members, Alyx, Neo, and Wernissage, on their respective platforms, listed in the description. If you'd like to see us grow even further, you can support Pseudofusion on Patreon, where you can get ad-free audio versions of this show the Friday before release. Thank you all for your support. I'm Noah.
Bye.
And this is not a Halo Podcast.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Which episode is this now? Is this 8?